Hi everyone, this is Brenda Wheeler from the International Institute of Genealogical Studies. Today we're talking about paleography and in particular numbers. I seem to have got a lot of questions just lately from the students about the old numbering systems. So we'll see how we go. If anyone in the meantime, while I'm doing the little PowerPoint has any questions, just put them down in the chat area and we'll deal with them afterwards. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, part of paleography, part of old handwriting, etc., is the old measurements and the old uh, numbering systems that we had. And so I thought I'd look at it a bit more thoroughly this time. And one of the things that we do come across is what they call regnal year dating. And this is the way of dating used in England, where the year started from the date that the new monarch accessed the throne. So here we've got the example. Yes, it's in Latin. Anno primo Edwardi sexti, the first year of Edward VI, and that turns out to be 1547, because Edward came to the throne on the 28th of January 1547 when he was just 9 years old. And so the regnal year starts with the 28th of January. It doesn't start on the 1st of January. With this, it starts on the date of his accession to the throne. In this case, with Edward VI, it was the 28th of January. So when you come to the 28th of January 1548, that would be the second year of Edward VI. So it's all regnal years, a little bit difficult sometimes to work out. And one way is by using my famous ruler, which I do have a copy. I do have my own. And what I've got here now, I went on to the National Archives in England website and had a look at their shop. And they not only now do the English regnal years, but they also do one of Scotland. Because until, where are we? Around 1603, as we can see from both of these rulers, 1603, James I came to the throne. Now, James I was also James VI of Scotland. So 1603 was when the two countries joined together and James VI of Scotland became James I of England. So as you go back through these regnal rulers, you can see that before 1603, they are all different. One's got Mary, Queen of Scots on it, whereas we seem to have a string of Henrys and Edwards, and the occasional Richard joined in. So mostly on the Scottish one, it's James and Mary Queen of Scots in the middle there before it joins up with James VI of Scotland and James I of England being the same person. So those are actually available in the National Archives shop. £4 is what you'll pay for those. So they could be very handy if you're looking at old documents and needing to know when these regnal years came into being. Latin numbers. You will frequently find Latin numbers in old documents. And one can be shown as either a small I, or if it's the last of a series of numbers, series of I's, the last one will be a J, signifying that it is the last of those number ones. As you can see, if you look at number 2 there, you've got either two I's or an I and a J. So if you see a J, you know that's the last of those, that segment of numbers. So one can be either an I or a J. Two two I's or one I and one J. Three, two I's and one J, probably. And although a lot of them you will know, certainly with the numbers up to 10, when you get to perhaps 100, 500, and 1000, that's when you start thinking of what do they say on the films, because a lot of the TV programs and the films that we see, when you look at the date of manufacture, it's all in Latin numerals. So what would be the Latin for 2024? And when you've got the idea of it, stick your hand up, your Zoom hand. You should be able to just, you'll find there's a little hand symbol that you can use to stick up your hand when you think you've got what 2024 would be. Looks like James is first. Now, I found this very interesting because I put what I thought was 2024 into Google Translate the other day. I put the lettering, the Latin lettering into Google and asked it to translate the Latin into English, and it consistently came up with the wrong number, which was very interesting, I found. You should have two M's, two X's, an I, and a V. James is nodding. Can't see any more. Can't see many more nodding. Oh, yeah, Cheryl's nodding. Yeah, so it can be used. And when you look at TV tonight, have a look at the date of manufacture of the film. If you're looking at a film, you'll find the Latin, they're still in Latin numbers there. The dating, you may find XXIJTH. Well, surely that's the 22nd. So shouldn't that be a little ND up there? But no, in the olden days, it wasn't the 22nd, it was the 2 and 20th day of March. Hence, you still got that TH up the top there. The 31st, as we would say, is the 30 and 1 and 1, the 1 and 30th day in the month.
Oh my goodness.
So you can see the difference there. When you see that little TH, now you can think, oh yeah, that's right. That's the way they said their numbers in those days. The 2 and 20th or the 1 and 30th. So that's why there's always a TH and not as we use the little ST for first, etc. They just stuck with the TH and then they didn't have to think of what the others were likely to be. So you can put this together. And this is a transcribed version of a parish register from Suffolk. And we've got there the entry that on the 230th year of the reign of King Henry the 8th, the 11th day of July, was married Thomas Crapnell and Isabel Packard. I've been very kind to you. I've gone for the transcribed version instead of the old handwriting. But can you see how, when you sound it out, as you read it, sound it out to yourself, because then Reagne, rain, is not the way we spell it these days. But by reading aloud to yourself, then you start making sense of a lot of these documents that otherwise you think, what do they mean by that? Because your mind doesn't take it in the same way if you read silently to yourself. And this is why genealogists uh, get these funny looks when they're reading old documents and they're mouthing it out to themselves all the time. Okay, you can see the how they've used the J as the last in the numbering. If you look the 30 halfway down the 3 and 30th year of the reign, remembering that the Y's are actually thorns and pronounced TH. But we didn't have whoever was typing this out on a very ancient computer typewriter didn't have a thorn on his typewriter, and so he's used the Y's. So we've got the year of the reign of, and just in that small difference, we had the 32nd year, and now we're on the 33rd year, and look at the difference in spelling of the reign. So it's probably someone else that's written that next entry. Money is what causes the problems in old documents. As you go back in time, very early pioneers would have been bringing their pound, shillings, and pence over with them. Uh, you're going back to the olden times in England looking for your ancestors, and you come across pounds, shillings, and pence. People try and use a calculator with old money, and it doesn't work. Old money was not decimalized. So for a pound, there was 20 shillings to make up a pound. And each of those shillings was made up of 12 pence. So you've got pounds, shillings, and pence. So you may find it written as £1, 12 and sixpence, as I've shown there, or 15/7, meaning 15 and sevenpence. And that's how it was written in those days. So now that you know that there's 20 shillings in a pound and 12 shillings, 12 pence in a shilling, let's look at some older money. A guinea. Now, this is really old money, isn't it? A guinea is worth £1, 1 shilling. Mark was a third of a pound, was 13 and fourpence. Half a guinea was 10 and sixpence. Crown was 5 shillings, and therefore a half crown was half of 5 shillings, so that was 2 and sixpence. 2 sixpences make a shilling, because that's 12 pence, and 2 shillings plus 1 shilling is 5 shillings. So yes, their maths was good in those days. A groat was worth 4 pence. A halfpenny or halfpenny was half of 1 penny, and a farthing was a quarter of a penny. And in early days, your wages were in pence, not shillings and pounds. So when you see the cost of even one newspaper these days, that would be about a month's wages in the olden times. But are guineas old? You look at some of the English races, and I just Googled British classic races, and up comes the 2000 guineas race. So that's £2,000 and 2,000 shillings. Anyone want to work out how much that actually is? Nobody looks as though they're writing. Would be £2,100. 1,000 guineas. So the top two races in what they call the British Classics are actually guineas races. And if you go to the horse sales, they don't bid in pounds, they bid in guineas. So it's surprising even though they're old terminology, it still does exist in some of the really old. The 2,000 guineas dates back to it was first run in 1809. So that would have been one hell of a lot of money in those days. Okay, let's have a look at how much some people were being taxed. Is that addition right? John Reynolds Sr., his house, he was taxed £4 on his house. It's been quite a considerable affair. Dennis's meadow, now that was probably Dennis's meadow, £2 was the taxation for that meadow, and part of Dennis's property was worth £4 and 13 shillings and fourpence. £4 and 1 mark. Another part of Dennis's property, again, was the same, £4 and 1 mark. Altogether, what does that come out at? Is that total correct? Start using your fingers, don't use a calculator. When you're looking at this money here, look at look at the final total. And that was the old way they wrote their eights. £15, 6 shillings and 8 pence. So remember that, because a lot of times they get mistaken for twos. So £15, 6 shillings and 8 pence. That 8 is there. So does it work out? Yes, 2 fours are 8. 13 plus 13 is 26. 20 shillings in a pound, so that's £1, 6 shillings. And we've got 3 fours plus 2 plus 1 equals 15. So the person doing his sums here was perfectly correct. Okay, get to it. Where's your pencil and paper? You've got two prices, £2, 16 shillings and 9 pence, and you're going to add up 7 shillings and 4 pence. What are you going to get to? You can put your answers in the chat area. One had a go. Let's have a look. Were you right? It's going to tell me my maths is wrong now. How about this one? Let's try taking 8 and 7 pence from £5, 6 shillings and 3 pence.
Brenda, I just figured out the first one.
Well done, Kimberly.
Okay, I think I've got it. Google helped me a bit. Okay,
9 and 4 is 13.
Yeah, but I've got £3.
12 pence to a pound, 12 pence to a shilling. So it's 1 penny over. So that's that one penny.
Yeah.
So you've got that shilling. 7 shillings and 16 shillings make 23, plus that 1 shilling that you had makes 24. So you've got 4 shillings and the 20 makes another pound onto the 2, changing that to £3, 4 shillings, 1 penny. Yes.
Yes.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, now try the next one. It's take away, subtraction.
7 pence. How come
£5.
pence? How come
Sorry.
pence are abbreviated by a D?
D is the Latin word for denarius, which when the Romans were there, they used denarius, and that carried through to pence when the monetary system evolved.
Okay.
Hence the D.
So now we have 8 shillings, 7 pence from £5.
You're not adding it up. You're taking 8 and 7 pence from £5, 6 shillings and 3 pence.
I'm muting so you don't hear me say a bad word.
Is that what everyone got? £4, 17 shillings and 8 pence you're left with. Oh, nice. It's nice to see I'm getting some nods there. So that's very encouraging. Kim's gonna take it away and work on it later. Okay, so you have now become the acting church warden of St. Stephen's in Norwich. And we have there a list of the tithes, the taxes that were being put on the inhabitants of St. Stephen's parish. And this was their taxation for the year. Easter 1833 to Easter 1834. And the church rate was 6 pence in the pound. So for every pound your property was worth, they are rating you at 6 pence. So if we look at Aldred at the top there, James Aldred, his house was valued at £3. So therefore, the rateable value is 3 lots of sixpences. In other words, 1 shilling and 6 pence. Can everyone see how that works? You've got the £3 there, and then how much it's so James Aldred has actually got to pay the church or the church warden 1 shilling and 6 pence in his rates for the year. Why was the church rating or tithing their parishioners? Because the church in those days was still had the responsibility of the poor and the sick, who they had to support and dole out money at the church gate. Hence, what we have these days is dole money. It comes from the period of time when the church was handing out the money at the gate. It was doling it out. The church had the upkeep of the church wardens had the upkeep of the church. They had the upkeep of the highways. they had the parish constable's role. So there was a lot of things. The church was pretty much responsible for everything that happened in the parish before the government stepped in and took over a lot of these responsibilities. And this is why, because the church is collecting the money in taxation, this was why the government had to bring in things like hearth tax, wig tax, powder tax, because the church was doing all the taxation and the government still needed money as well. Hence, you've got all these other taxes as well in these olden days. So we've got a whole load of numbers there. Okay, you're the church warden. What's your total for that page? From those last two columns, the 1 and 6, 11 shillings, 1 shilling, etc. The shillings and pence columns. Did you try and use a calculator, James? It doesn't work. One thing that makes it easier, remember that there's 12 pence to a shilling. So 6 pence would be half of a shilling. So in in the pence column, the D column, you've got lots of sixpences. So you can just put two of those together to make 1 shilling. And altogether you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lots of sixpences. So that's going to be 3 shillings for a start. And then all you've got to do is add up the shillings column. In the olden days when I went to school, we used to have to do this. But this is where a lot of people fall down there these days. They just rely on a calculator and they don't use the brain processes to add up in their head. I still find it appalling that I was buying two of something in one shop and they cost $2.50 each. And the young man who was charging me had to walk all the way down the store to work out that he was going to have to charge me $5. So I very quickly stuffed my $5 note away and gave him a $10 note. So he had to go all the way back down the store to get me my change. So I thought, if you cannot work that out in your head, you could do the exercise. Okay, so how are you all doing? Just about there? I got £2, 3 shillings. Does everybody agree? To put it another way, 43 shillings. Hopefully you did, because I've just added it up again and got to the same number. But the interesting thing is, when you look at the column of how much the property was worth in those days, £3 for where James Aldred, his house, his property, his cottage was valued at £3 in those days. When you think what the price of property is these days, wow. Okay, miscellanea. I put these together as well because a dozen is 12. But if you were in the baker's shop, they would give you 13 rolls rather than 12. So it became known as a baker's dozen. Because the bakers were so often challenged about the weight of their loaves, they used to stick in an extra roll or an extra bun to make up the dozen to make sure that it was within the allowed weight for the 12 rolls. So it became known as a baker's dozen. And a gross was 12 dozen, 12 lots of 12. A sennight was 7 days, in other words, a week. And something that is still in current language, fortnight, 14 nights, fortnight, 14 days. The term miscellanea. What does it mean these days when you hear in the offing? What does that mean to you? Do feel free to unmute and tell me what you've heard. That what does it mean when someone says it's in the offing? Has nobody ever heard that before?
Going to have one.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to happen. Yeah, well done, James. Do you know where that saying comes from? For us, with all our migration ancestors, in the old days of sailing ships, when a sailing ship was due, where you have on the horizon where the sky meets the sea, there's a little dark band, and that is the offing. And when a ship was sighted, it was in the offing. It was close to shore. It's just come over the horizon and can be seen, and it will be due very soon. And that was how the saying came into being of in the offing. So next time you go down to the sea, you can have a look at the offing. Okay, we're going to the market now. You need 6 nails. They cost 2 and 6pence a dozen. How much are you going to pay for those 6 nails? Remembering that a dozen is 12, you only want 6. So in this case, you're going to have to divide 2 and 6 by 2, and you should come up with, Cheryl, what did you do wrong? You come up with 1 and 3pence. So you've given the shopkeeper a crown. How much change are you going to get? Kim's given up now. So you're paying 1 and 3pence for your 6 nails, and you've got a crown that you've given him. It was payday, you got paid a crown. So now you've got to think back to what Brenda said earlier as to how much a crown was worth. A crown is worth 5 shillings. So providing your shopkeeper is not doing you, you should check to make sure you've got 3 shillings and 9 pence change. Were you done, James, or was that right? Okay, now you're going to buy some candles. Got a power cut tonight. They're 12 shillings a gross, but you don't want a gross, you only want a dozen. So how much will you pay? Looks like I've lost Cheryl as well. Okay, a gross was 12 lots of 12. So you only want one lot of 12. So you should be paying 1 shilling. If 12 lots of 12 are 12 shillings, one lot of 12 is going to be 1 shilling. Oh, I've got some smiles on faces. Okay, and just to finish off, you've gone to the fabric merchant's stall in the market and you want some material. And you want 3 yards of dress material. How much will you pay for 3 yards at 2 and 3 pence per yard? Okay. If you pay more than 6 shillings and 9 pence, you've been done. So you should be paying 6 shillings and 9 pence. And now you want to pretty this dress up a bit. So you want 7 yards of lace. And it's 2 pence a yard. 2 pence, 2 pence a yard. How much are they going to charge you? 7 yards at 2 pence a yard. Can you see how I'm bringing in the old terminology? 2 pence is 2 pence. She's given up. She's walked off. Okay, so 7 2s are 14. 12 pence to a shilling. So you should be charged 1 shilling and 2 pence, or 1 and 2 pence. Okay, right. Let me stop sharing. So did that get your brains going for us today? How many of you can remember a time of pounds, shillings, and pence, and yards, and feet, and inches? Do some of you still deal in feet and inches? It's surprising. People don't seem to equate that, hey, there's 12 pence in a shilling. Hey, there's 12 inches in a foot. So the same addition, multiplication, etc., comes into your sums in the olden times. Okay, any questions? Are you all pleased you've gone to decimalisation? Can you imagine how difficult it would have been if we'd have kept £2 shillings and pence, trying to work out a calculator that worked in those sort of ways? Thank you for coming today. Hopefully you enjoyed that session, got your brain stimulated, and hopefully I'll see you again sometime in the future. Thank you.